Hello, my Math 7 cuties. Day 2 of 4-4 notes, which is on adding and subtracting unlike fractions, or where the denominators are not like. But before we get started, take a look at this launch. You're going to simplify each integer expression to recall the integer methods that you used from Chapter 3. So without a calculator, I want you to calculate A through G just by that memory of either using SAC-DSL, scoreboard, a number line, or with that subtraction, whether you did a big plus sign or maybe looping or the additive inverse. So I want you to go ahead and push pause and answer these 7 questions, and then push play once you have finished so that you can check your integer computation. Go ahead and push pause. Alrighty, so hopefully for A, you ended up with -5. For B, we had to use the additive inverse, so plus a negative, or adding the opposite gives us -12. For C, minus a negative right next to each other, make a big plus sign, or again, additive inverse would make that a plus, a positive, so we get a +6. For letter D, this is a DSL problem, so different signs, you subtract them. 11 minus 7 is 4. You keep the larger, which is negative, so -4. Then for letter E down below, order of operations, you got to work from left to the right because everything is addition and subtraction. So if I'm adding -5 plus a -10 gives us a total of -15. And then I bring down that -13. So notice that I just brought that down in the black marker. And then with the green, I then added the inverse, or plus a -13. And then I ended up with -28. And then for letter F, when I add those two things together, I get 13. Plus 1 gives us 14. And then for that last one, G, 12 minus 15 gives you -3. And then plus a -7, so you end up with a -10. Alright, so keep this idea in mind of the integers, because now this is the only difference between day 1 and day 2, is you're going to have to look more at those negative or those subtraction integer operations. So just kind of keep that in mind. We are going to do 2 examples together, and then you are going to do 2 on your own as you try questions. So for example 1, again, we got to keep those same steps that we did the other day on 4 day 1 notes, and you need common denominators. So I'm going to start by listing out the multiples of 5. So we would have 5, 10, 15, 20. And then also the multiples of 10, we know are 10, 20, 30. And again, I can stop because I see that 10 is a multiple of both 5 and 10. So again, you don't necessarily have to show this if you already know how to get that common denominator, but this is just a good refresher for getting common denominators here. So I know I'm going to multiply this by 2 to get to 10. So I now have 4 10s. And I'm going to bring down plus, and remember, I'm going to put that negative up in the numerator so that we have that same common denominator of 10. So -7 tenths. And you can keep those parentheses if you would like. I know that sometimes those parentheses confuse some of us, so I'm just going to drop them so that you can see it's really just 4 tenths plus a -7 tenths. So I know I keep that denominator of 10, and then I just look up in the numerator, because really all I'm doing is 4 plus a -7. So that's just similar to what we did up above in that launch. 4 plus a -7, different sign, so we subtract them. 7 minus 4 gives us 3, and we keep the larger, so the larger number was negative. Therefore, we have a -3 tenths as our final answer. It can be simplified. Alright, hopefully you feel pretty good with that example 1. Now we're going to look at example 2. And so example 2, there are actually 3 fractions that we're adding or subtracting together. So again, order of operations, we're just going to work from the left to the right. So I'm going to look first right here at -5/6 plus 2/3. So again, you can list out your multiples of 6 and 3. I already know that the common denominator here will end up being 6, because I can take 3 times 2 to get to 6. So now I have -5/6, and notice I put that negative up in the numerator, plus 4/6. So again, I just keep that denominator of 6, and all I'm really looking at here now is -5 plus 4. So when I add those items together, -5 plus 4, if I were to quickly come up with a scoreboard, I have 5 negatives, I have 4 positives, so I know my negatives won the game, and they won by 1 point. So I currently have -1, 6, but then we still need to bring down what we haven't used yet, so -11/6. -11/6. So then from here, we're going to use our subtraction ideals from chapter 3. I know that instead of a subtraction problem, we really just want to add the inverse, so that use that additive inverse. So I'm going to make this a plus sign, so therefore my numerator needs to be negative. So I have negative 1/6 plus negative 11/6, and notice that was really nice that we don't have to get common denominators. Those are already current common denominators. So my denominator is 6. Really all I'm doing now is just adding together a negative 1 plus a negative 11. So negative 1 plus a negative 11. They're the same sign, so we add them. We get 12, and then we keep the sign. So we have negative 12/6. And then always, always, always remember to simplify. I know 12 divided by 6 just gives us 2. But then remember, a positive and a negative. This is like a positive right here. A positive and a negative. So remembering back to your multiplication division rules, when I cover up a positive and a negative right here-ish, we would end up with a negative answer. So my final answer is negative 2. Now, if you have negative 2 over 1, remember, just simplify that further. So negative 2 over 1, if I say 2 divided by 1, I just end up with 2. So make sure your fraction, your resulting fraction is always in simplest terms. All right, so now we just have the 2 you-try problems. So I want you to try both of these. And then push play once you have solved them out. And remember, I'm just going to kind of explain to you really quickly how I got my answer. If you got them right, fantastic. If you got them incorrect, just look back at my work, and then you can always just double, triple check yourself to make sure that your work is also correct. So go ahead and pause to answer these 2 questions.
Alrighty, so hopefully you got a common denominator of 24. So in order to get that, I know that the factor for the left first fraction is multiplying by 3. So I noticed that I took that negative and I put it up in the numerator, which is A-okay. So I got negative 21 over 24 plus, and then that second fraction I need to multiply by the factor of 8 in order to get that least common multiple of that common denominator 24. Then once I get common denominators, I keep that denominator, and then my numerators, I add those 2 things together. So when I add those 2 things together, it's really like I'm subtracting those 2 things because of different signs I subtract to keep the larger. So 21 take away 8, I get 13, and then I know my answer has to be negative because the 21 is larger. So hopefully you got negative 13 over 24 for example number 3. And then for example number 4, take a look at my common denominator. I found that it was 40. So in order to get build up to 40, you need to multiply by that factor that will get us the answer of 40. So I multiplied by 5 for that first one, and then I multiplied by 4 for the second one, and then I went ahead and multiplied by 2 for that third one. So right here, I know that I got 25 over 40, and then I went ahead and add opposite for that second fraction. So then I put that negative up in the numerator. So I got negative 36/40ths, and then I got 6/40ths. And then once I get common denominator, I am just going to add all of those numerators together. So 25 plus 6, because addition is commutative. So I get 31 plus a negative 36. So therefore I end up with a negative 5. But then I do need to simplify this out. I know that 5 goes into both of these. So I need to divide by 5, both the numerator and the denominator. I end up with a final answer of negative 1/8. All right, hopefully you feel pretty good with day 2 notes. Good luck on your problems.